Welcome to Castaway Tracks. Welcome to Tracks for a Castaway, a podcast in which we ask interesting people what songs they would choose to take to a desert island.
This week's guest is Vinny Barbosa.
Vinicius Barbosa Pipa, his full name.
Yes, what he said. Not to be confused with Captain Barbosa from Pirates of the Caribbean. Caribbean?
I don't know, because he's from Brazil.
Ah.
He is a composer, recently nominated for an Emmy for his work in an animation show for Netflix. And he's going to join us to talk about which songs have influenced his life the most.
This is Tracks for a Castaway.
Welcome back to the podcast. Bienvenido al podcast.
Welcome.
How do you say this in Portuguese?
Bem-vindo ao podcast.
Do you know Portuguese?
No, but I can do English.
Our guest here is a native of Brazil.
That's right.
He's a composer based in Los Angeles. His name is Vinicius Barbosa Pipa. And he's our guest to the desert island today, in which we're going to force him to choose 6 songs that he's going to take to this desert island. And it's a format that I stole from as a homage to the famous BBC show Desert Island Discs.
Amazing.
And
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here early in the morning.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's 5 o'clock a.m. in my mind.
How long have you been here in LA?
I've been here in LA for about 5 years. So I moved here in 2017.
We're recording this in 2023 for
Right.
the record.
That's important.
Yes.
For when
That's
people
important.
listen to this
For everyone listening in the future.
generations
In
from
100
now.
years from now.
Yeah, when they research us.
Where were you before that?
Before that, I spent 4 years in Boston. That's not really my accent.
Awesome.
I spent 4 years there. That's where I went to college. So I was there from 2013 till 2017.
To Berkeley?
I went to Berkeley,
Nice.
Berkeley College of Music, with 2 E's, not with a Y. Not the one in California, but the one in Boston. So I was there for 4 years. And before that, I was in Brazil, as you mentioned. Being born and then growing.
Well, let's start at the beginning. You were born in, where, Sao Paulo?
I was born in São Paulo, yes, in the city of São Paulo proper. But then when I was about 3 years old, my family and I moved to, what would you call it? A little bit more of a rural area, a little smaller town called Carapicuíba.
Oh, yes.
Carapicuíba. Yeah, I've been
Yeah,
there. I
been there?
summer there every
Yeah,
holiday.
it's a very popular tourist destination. Everybody goes there.
Yeah, my parakeet's from there.
There we go. So that's where I did most of my growing. It was in
Nice.
Carapicuíba.
Well, let's start with the first song.
Okay.
This is by Fernando Sor.
Well, this is actually by Mozart, and then Fernando Sor did I think if I know the history correctly, he did an adaptation for acoustic guitar, for classical
really?
guitar. Yeah.
Okay.
So he did these variations on a theme by Mozart.
So it's from the early 19th century, I understand.
You know better than me. You're a classical
I
guy.
have Wikipedia here that tells me that Fernando Sor was born in 1778 and died in 1839.
There we go. Do you want to play it, or do you want me
Yeah,
to
let's play
talk
it.
about it? Great. This is the best part. Beautiful, huh?
Yeah, beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Why did you choose this song?
So this song, some of my earliest musical memories are classical music being played on an acoustic guitar, because my father, he was not a professional musician, but he loved music. And so he played guitar, he played piano, played a bunch of stuff. But as a tiny little kid, he would play this song and others on his guitar, and I just remember loving it. He would just pick up his guitar, he'd put it on his left leg, right? Because that's how you play classical. And I remember loving it. I would hear it, and it would just be like, I would just get so happy as a little kid. And I just asked him to play it over and over again. I can still remember, like, whenever I listen to this, I can see the picture of him sitting on the couch playing it. It's beautiful. So these are some of the first musical memories I have.
Yeah, growing up in Latin America, the guitar is huge there.
Oh, yes.
And classical guitar, which is so complex to play.
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I always envied from guitarists is the ability to just take their instrument anywhere and impress people and play anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm a pianist and Ryan is a pianist, and
I'm a drummer, so,
So we were
Well,
stuck.
we're kind of out of
we're
luck
just,
then.
yeah,
Unless
So
you
we
do,
can't
like,
do that.
guitar.
which is a move.
Yeah. So if you're a drummer, how did you first dive into drums?
We'll talk about that when we get to the next song.
Oh,
But
perfect segue.
I was in touch with music from an early age because my dad was always playing, but I didn't really start playing seriously until I was about 14, which is kind of late for as far as music goes. Like most musicians start pretty early. It's a very funny story. But I was in middle school, and some friends of mine and I decided that we were going to start a band. We're just like, hey, let's start a band, you know. And I was like, great, let's do it. And then they told me, you're going to be the bass player, and then this guy's going to be the drummer, that guy's going to be the singer, and this guy's going to be the guitar player. And for some reason, and I'm not sure why, I said, I don't want to be the bass player. I want to be the drummer. And then they were like, fine, you know, you convinced me. So then I started taking drum lessons, and it's because of some of the stuff that I was listening to at the time. And then it was a good start. I had my teacher said I was pretty good, and then the band never happened.
Well, it can still happen.
I
It
think
could.
it's time
Probably
to get
better
the
now,
band back.
better
Yeah.
quality.
You got to get the band back together, boys.
Yeah, I'll give him a call.
Yeah.
Well, let's use that story to segue into your next song.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about
Sure.
this?
So the next song is Ramble On by Led Zeppelin.
That's what we're gonna do a lot rambling on. in
Yeah,
this.
what I do.
I'm going to ramble, so you have to stop me. But so like I was saying, around that time when I was in my early teens, that Led Zeppelin was something I fell in love with. The first record that I ever owned was a Led Zeppelin record, Led Zeppelin 4, if you're familiar.
Nice.
I know you're a Led Zeppelin
I'm
expert.
a aficionado, connoisseur.
This song is not from Led Zeppelin 4, it's from a different album, but this kind of sums up the essence of Led Zeppelin for me. And I remember that I was fascinated by the drums. I just loved the drums. They were powerful, they sounded huge and energetic, and I was like, I want to be a drummer. So, and this also has some ties to my dad, because my dad loved Led Zeppelin, and he kind of converted me into them. So,
Well, let's take a listen. Let's ramble on.
yeah. Comes the drums. A little bit. Wait for it. Comes. So good.
I know he
That's
knows
a good
drums.
feeling. That's a good
So
feeling.
good.
This song is a perfect tempo for Joe romping,
For what?
jumping rope,
Yeah, it is.
because I did almost 60 in a row, which is like my record
Uh-huh.
yesterday. I always, like when I hit 30, I miss. But I got it past 50.
Do you always put a song with it?
Well, I don't like just jumping for
Yeah.
no reason, so that is.
So you need it.
I need
Little
music.
song to go.
Well, that was Ramble On by Led Zeppelin.
Amazing.
It's a great piece.
Amazing.
How was leaving Brazil?
I mean, it was an adventure. So when I turned 17, 18, that's when I left. And well, let's backtrack a little bit. So I was studying music, right, still in Brazil, and you know, learning drums and so on. And I decided that I wanted to be a professional musician, which is kind of a, you know, you can relate. You can too, right?
Someday I hope to.
It's a bold choice, but
Foolhardy, some would say.
yeah, but my parents were pretty supportive, you know, for the most part. And so first I told them, hey, I want to be a professional musician, and that was already a lot to swallow. And then I said to them, also, I want to go to the United States, and that was another kind of a doozy. I knew that I and this, you know, we'll segue into the next few pieces, but they have something to do with this decision. But I knew I wanted to write music for movies. That's kind of something that I was pretty certain about. And to my knowledge at the time, there was only one place that taught film scoring as an undergrad, which was up at Berklee College of Music in Boston. That's kind of how I got drawn to the U.S.
Did you experience any culture shock or when you arrived, or was it easy sailing?
Good question. I knew that I needed to be good at English, so I was watching a lot of like American sitcoms before moving.
Like which one?
Like Big Bang Theory was my jam. So I was
Nice.
watching a lot of Big Bang Theory, and so I think it prepared me. It prepared me well, and I got here, and it wasn't too difficult to get acquainted. People were very welcoming to me. Berkeley has a really international community, so there's people from everywhere. But after the first week, I made friends and I was welcomed, and so I didn't really feel like it was too difficult, to kind of integrate. So I think I was lucky.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Was Berkeley your first experience really delving into film scoring? Like, had you messed with DAWs at all, or
stuff like that back
Yeah.
then? Not a lot. Like I didn't do a lot of composing before starting to study composition, which is kind of funny
Interesting.
to think about. So I did mostly playing when I was in high school. I was playing a lot of drums. This is drums. That's why I say playing. This is me playing drums.
It's not riding a horse.
It's not riding the horse. Yeah, but it could be. I did mostly performing in high school. I did a little bit of writing music around that time too, but not a lot. So when I came to Berkeley, it was kind of like almost a completely fresh start into composition. So I had a lot of catching up to do. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm curious how your voice developed as a composer in that process.
Well, let's use it as a segue for the next song, which is Wagner's Prelude to Tristan and Isolde.
That's correct.
I imagine that there's a moment in which you discover classical music.
There is. Yeah. So a few years before moving to the U.S., I was taking music lessons, and I was taking drums. So I was taking a little bit of guitar, a little bit of piano, and music theory and ear training and so on. And I had a big mentor of mine. His name was Gustavo. Gustavo, if you're listening, God bless you. He showed me the first piece of classical music that I've ever heard, which was this one. And I remember it just blew my mind. It was like, you're a classical musician, you understand. I don't have a classical background. I listen to a lot of rock. I listen to kind of band music. My dad's guitar music, I listen to that a lot. But music with orchestra, that was the first time that I kind of sat down to really listen to it. And that piece of music just blew my mind. It's like somebody shows you an entire palette of colors that you didn't know existed. And you're like, oh my gosh. So it just blew my mind. So
well,
let's
listen
play it.
to these very colorful harmonies.
It's a really
So
pretty
beautiful.
piece. Man, I'm gonna listen to this. I'm not familiar.
Yeah.
Well, that
This
was
piece is amazing.
an
It's
excerpt
beautiful.
from Wagner's Prelude to Tristan and Isolde.
Yes.
I love Wagner,
You do?
but that his music, not him. And
You've never met him.
no, nor I would like to. But I don't think I've ever heard Tristan and Isolde in its entirety, the whole opera. I think it's
I don't think
3
anyone
hours. No, nobody has.
Well, for the rest of the podcast, we're actually going to go ahead and listen to that. So thank you everyone
Yeah.
for listening.
Thank
It's
you for
3 hours
tuning
long.
in.
It's 3
Yeah.
hours long.
Yeah.
Speaking of long things, the next song is Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yes.
It belongs to that epic saga.
Oh, yes.
Personally, I want to share with you that I saw in the same day, last weekend, the complete trilogy from Lord of the Rings, the extended edition
Yeah.
on film, 35 millimeters,
All three in one
Really?
day.
in one day.
On
What
film.
time did you start?
10 a.m. Then we
Uh-huh.
break for an hour. The two towers started at 3 p.m.
Uh-huh.
Whole thing. Then we break for an hour for dinner.
Yeah.
And then the last one started at 8 p.m. and finished around close to midnight.
Yeah. Did you get paid for overtime?
No, it was nice. It was in downtown LA in an
Yeah.
old-timey theater, and it was like 400
Did
people
you
there.
get Did you get tired of like just
Funnily enough, no.
No?
I came with like a picnic bag,
uh-huh.
and they allowed us to do that, of course.
Right.
And I had so many different snacks. Variety of snacks is key
That's important.
because
That's
you
important.
you feel time
You want to keep it
passes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
Trader Joe's. Just go to Trader Joe's and
I
Get
actually
all the
did.
snacks.
yeah.
Well, but I imagine you are a big fan of those movies.
I am a huge fan of those movies. So I would say that The Lord of the Rings probably were the movies that enticed me into wanting to be not only a musician, but a musician for movies.
Same.
Right?
We just shook hands for the listeners.
We did. We can do it again for for an ASMR version.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
But so if the pieces that I was sharing before kind of they captivated me musically, and I was like, I was impressed by the orchestral colors or by the just how fun they were to listen to or to play or something like that. But the thing that the Lord of the Rings did to me is that it kind of added a lot of depth to what you can do with music that's not just strictly musical. So it was the combination of music and storytelling. When you're talking about storytelling, that's kind of where that's my what would you say? It's kind of my highest aim in music. Even more than to just make interesting music, but it's to make music that tells a story or music that is tied to a story. And with that in mind, I have a little quote from the Lord of the Rings that I think just really exemplifies that. Can I share it?
Sure, of course.
Please.
So check this out. This is for those of you who are familiar with the movie, there's a moment in the movie when Frodo is kind of like very discouraged, and he's thinking about giving up, and he tells Sam, his trusty companion, always optimistic, he tells Sam that he doesn't think he can do this. He says, I can't do this, and so on. And then Sam tells him this. Listen to this. It's amazing. It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come. When the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going because they were holding on to something, that there's some good in this world and it's worth fighting for. It's fantastic.
Beautiful.
It's like the heart of like good storytelling for me.
You like storytelling, so you are in the right industry.
Yeah.
Of telling stories through film.
Mm-hmm.
Let's listen to the next track, which is Howard Shore's score for The Two Towers.
Yes.
The entire thing.
The whole thing. Amazing.
It makes me want to go on a journey
Yeah,
to defeat evil.
that's pretty much it.
And aren't we all doing that
That's-
in our way?
I was just on my way to defeat evil, actually, and I stopped in here.
That's what we're doing after this.
Yeah.
You are from Brazil,
Yes.
where soccer is a religion,
Yes,
so to speak.
it is.
Futebol, that's how you pronounce
Futebol.
it? Futebol.
Football. Nice. You're very good at this.
And for the listener at home, Vinny and I actually play futebol almost every week,
We do.
Wednesday nights.
We do.
Because he was lucky to be born in a very good country for that hobby, he's good. He scores goals
Thank
every
you.
time. I've only scored 3 goals in a year, but
But they were good goals. With your head. Remember that one with
I'm
your
like
head?
Frodo. Like I only do one thing, but every now and
when you
then.
do
But
it-
when I do it,
Rocks the world.
yeah, exactly.
No,
You score goals every night. It's like what else?
No big deal.
Mhm. But I understand that you were a goalie also
I
growing
was.
up.
I was. Yeah. So, it's funny that you're talking about soccer or football because I've been playing it for longer than I've been making music, which is kind of funny. Because in Brazil, when you're a kid, at least in my, I don't know how it is now in this generation, but in my generation, when you were born and you started walking, somebody would give you a soccer ball.
Same in
And
Costa
then-
Rica.
Right. And then you just start playing. And so most of the kids growing up at my time were playing.
Every afternoon.
Every afternoon.
Out of my neighborhood,
at
all the kids
home.
just played soccer.
Yeah.
At home, yes, I play between the doors.
Right. At home, in the living room, in the kitchen, the parents would go crazy because you're breaking stuff all the time. But I have an older brother, and my older brother forced me to be a goalkeeper. That's
I
how
did the same with
started.
my little brother.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So that's how I started. Because he was a striker and he wanted to kick and shoot, to the goal, but he needed somebody there to stop the shots. So he was like, "Hey, you're coming with me, and you're gonna be a goalkeeper," and that's how I started being a goalkeeper. And now I rebelled, and now I play.
Striker,
as
you
a
never
striker.
come down to
I
defend.
never come down. Sometimes.
He always hangs out in the front, never comes back. Me in the defense.
But you're a good
I feel
defender.
Well,
So-
I have to because
so
nobody
I
else wants
trust
to play defense in that game. The next song.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
I definitely can. So this song is, so don't judge me, but it's a song by John Mayer. I love John Mayer.
No judgment here.
I love his songwriting. I think he's great. I love his guitar playing. And this song is from an album of his called Born and Raised, which is like a very introspective album. It's very different from everything that he had been writing thus far. It's like a kind of a sort of folk, kind of country inspired album. And he wasn't writing music like that before. And as is the case, I think, with most of the pieces that I've been talking about so far, music always has this role in my life that it's kind of always tied to my story. Like there are different times in my life where I remember the things that were going on and sort of significant moments in life, and I always remember what I was listening to because I would be coming back over and over to the same music. So this album came at a time that was kind of hard for me in life. So it was after I moved. I had already, I moved from Brazil. I finished college and already moved to LA, and I had been working in film music for maybe a year or so, and I had kind of a little bit of a personal crisis, if you can put it that way. I just kind of lost perspective, of how I talked about earlier that all of this music growing up kind of gave me direction, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a composer because I love music, I love stories, and I was super excited about that, and that's what I wanted to do. Now, fast forward, 10 years in the future, and I'm in LA, and I kind of forgotten about all that, forgotten who I was in many ways. And so I almost gave up on music entirely at that time. It was around 2018, a few years ago. Almost gave up on music, and I was going to leave the U.S., go back to Brazil, and start again. Thankfully, I didn't do that. Mm-hmm. But because of this little crisis, it kind of led me to do a little bit of soul searching. And that's when things started turning around. And that's, I was listening to this music kind of throughout during that period. And it helped me to just kind of think things through and reframe things in life. And the biggest thing that did help is that this was the time in my life when I think through this crisis is when I found faith. So that was sort of a turning point for me. And this record is all about that. Not necessarily about faith, but it's about this kind of starting again, if that makes sense. So we can give that a listen.
Well, speak for me.
Listen to this line.
With a celebrating broken things, I don't want a world of broken things.
This is the best line. Come here right now. This one.
You can tell something isn't right when all your heroes are in black and white.
Right?
What I tried to say, at least I still have yesterday. Show me something I can be. Play a song that I can sing. Make me feel as I am free. Someone come speak for me.
Great song.
Thank you for introducing me to this song. I just downloaded it.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
You should check out this whole record. Born and Raised. Really good.
You just downloaded it? How do you download songs?
I heard them in Spotify.
Oh, I see.
No,
I
it
see.
saves
The
them on my
Spotify
phone.
download.
Save them.
I just recorded it on my voice memo, so now I have it.
No, but actually, when I save them, it goes into my phone. That way I can listen when I'm offline or airplane mode. Like if I'm in an airplane, I can still listen to it.
That's fancy.
I should start doing that.
You didn't put your phone on airplane mode like the producer asked?
I did.
So I'm curious. You mentioned you discovered faith. So I'm curious how faith impacts your music career at this point in time.
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the things that I think I lost sight of around the time that I was mentioning just now is I think I lost sight of the why. Why was I doing the things that I was doing? Because I've always been very motivated. I decided to want to make music, so I moved from Brazil and I came to the U.S. and so on. So I've always been very motivated to pursue this. But I think at some point I needed to figure out why I was doing it, which is kind of to me, it's the question underneath everything. It's like the motivating force to go after your dreams and go after the things that you want to pursue and achieve. And I think faith reshaped that for me, so it didn't necessarily change what I was doing and how I was doing the things I was doing, but it changed why, so that gave me a completely different motivation, I would say, to go after, making music and being and participating in projects that I think are meaningful and that I care about, and I think it gave me the power of renewal, if that makes sense too, where when you hit a point where you kind of feel like you're out of steam and you're kind of burnt out, you can find again the thing that inspired you in the first place. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so
totally.
That's it, and this is going to be a whole nother conversation, but those are some of the things for me that changed once faith came into the picture.
Where you're at right now with film music and with faith, what would you say your heart music is? Like if you were to write something not to picture.
Yeah. Wow.
Something to play for yourself in this desert island.
That's a great question. Okay, if when I think about this, I think of a record, right? Maybe a few songs, like 10 songs or something like that. I feel like I would want it to be eclectic because I like so many different kinds of music, so I would like to put various things together, different influences that I have, different styles of music that kind of have shaped me and so on. But I think most of all, and this is kind of a recurring theme for me in music, I think I would want it to be something that could help people on their journey, whatever they're going through, whatever they're doing in life, because that's what music has done for me. Like music has been one of the constants in my life that I always kind of come back to. And of course, as music nerds, I like going in there and figuring out, what are these chords that they're playing, and how is this composer doing the orchestration, or how is this melody put together, and so on. But the thing that really always come back to with enthusiasm is how does this music kind of tie into my own story, and how does it affect my life, and how do I relate to it, sort of in a personal level, and an emotional level, and so on. So I don't know if that answers the question, but something not necessarily musically complicated, but just with depth, in the lyrics or in the music itself, something that moves you and gives you hope.
Yeah. Do you write lyrics too?
Only when I have to.
Same here.
So I'd probably get a lyricist too.
Now that you are in LA, you recently got married.
I did.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
How long ago?
Almost exactly a year. A little bit over a year.
Oh, man. So this is your official anniversary podcast.
It is. Mm-hmm. It is. This is really what it's all about. It's celebrating my marriage.
Speaking of marriage, let's go to the next song.
Yes.
I hope that the listener of this podcast is listening to this late at night, hopefully.
Yeah.
Just getting ready to go to bed.
I see where you're going.
Because the last song in your set is Antes de Dormir.
That's it.
Did I pronounce that right?
You pronounce it in Spanish, but that's close enough.
Well,
Antes de dormir.
I think it's
Antes de dormir.
Antes de dormir.
That's it. Yeah, that's the...
Which means before sleeping.
Yeah, before going to sleep.
By Dingo.
By Dingo. If you don't know Dingo, it's a great band from Brazil.
Sounds like from
they're
Australia.
Active now. They're fantastic. I would highly recommend.
Well, let's listen to this song.
I think I actually have heard of Dingo.
Really?
I think so. But I couldn't tell you what the music's like.
So good.
But this is nice. It sounds like a lullaby.
Yeah.
Leva o sol, despertamos juntos desse sonho que sonhamos muito antes de dormir.
Beautiful lullaby.
I agree.
I'm going to take a nap now.
Yeah.
Why did you choose this song?
So this song played at my wedding, which happened around a year ago. This song it kind of brings together all of the things that I love. So I think about my wedding, I think about my wife, think about my family, and it kind of makes me feel at home, because I wanted to choose a song from Brazil, and I think this song kind of just sums up a lot of what home was like for me. And so that's kind of what this song conjures up for me. And it's hearkening back to that Lord of the Rings quote. These are the good things in the world that I think are worth fighting for. It's the people you love, it's your family, it's your home, So that's what the song means to me.
Well, thank you for coming to our podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
I hope that you survive this desert island.
Me too.
And you can escape and
Me
come
too.
back here. We wish you the best.
Thank you.
Good luck out there.
Thank you so much for joining us. We don't want to lose you, so please get involved. Find out about our prayer call sheets, how you can get a prayer partner, get the updated news of what's going on in Hollywood, and even connect with our local chapters. So join us at HollywoodPrayerNetwork.org.